Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This video is taking a reasonably detailed look at all my Phalaenopsis. They grow in the kitchen on the windowsill, well either on the windowsill or on the shelf that I've built, and we're going to do it as I water them. But in conjunction, this video will be posted later in the week, once I've edited it and everything. But as we go past these plants, any that I find in bud, spike or bloom will become part of today's video, which is everything in bud, spike and bloom on the 8th. So I'm effectively filming two videos at the same time. Hopefully you won't see the join, but the language may change a bit for those plants that I find spikes on. Okay, so let's get going. I'll move the camera in a bit closer so that we can actually see plants. And I'll hold each one up to the camera as we find anything worth looking at. Something like that. I need it to be reasonably close, yeah, so that you can actually see. Although, let's take that down a bit so that we're on the counter, because that's where they'll be while I'm looking at them. Right, I'm going to do what I normally do, just start on a shelf and move along one at a time. There's my, there it is, good. So we've got our alcohol spray. The alcohol spray is for the mealybugs. As you can see, they tend to get on the new growth. There's only a few on this one, but they're still here. I still haven't got rid of them. So I'm just making sure I don't leave any behind. So I just need to get a little bit of alcohol spray on that new growth. There we go. That's that done. I won't water it yet because we're looking at it. And the first one I've picked up does have a spike. So this is where the video gets a bit complicated. So this one's got a spike on it. This is Mini Phal H2 in my code, in my notes. H means it's one of Hannah's, and because there are two mini Phals that I've got that belong to Hannah, there's an H1 and an H2. So this is one of Hannah's. It's growing okay. It's got a very good root system in the pot. It's got another equally good root system hanging out of the pot. It's growing a new leaf. It has got a good number of leaves. The oldest leaf down here is fading. That will come off soon. But that one's doing okay. Doing okay. So that's the first spike we found. Right, now we'll water it. The idea is, as I go along, you know, we've had a look at this one. We've had a chat about it. I'm now watering it, and I'll put it to one side and pick up the next one. But while we were doing it, I talked the language that will go with the everything in spike. That's why I said it might get a bit disjointed. But that's our first spike. That's on one of Hannah's. Jolly good. Right, next one. This is a species. This is again one of Hannah's. And this is Equestris, but it's the pyloric version. It has 3 lips. It also has some mealybugs. Yet again, I just cannot get rid of them on these Phalaenopsis. I've tried spraying them. They've been in the hot room with the, been in the grow room with the hot box on, and they just will not go away. I think I'm just going to have to use the soapy wash type spray and just spray them every couple of days for a couple of weeks. It's hard work, it really is hard work. Right, so this one hasn't got a brilliant root system, but it's a lot better than it had once upon a time when it had virtually none. But it has grown some roots in this area. So yeah, it could be better, but it's doing okay. This is a real mini, this one. one. Next, this is still a mini fowl, but it's a bigger one. So this says mini fowl D, which means it's one of the ones that came from the Double H nursery, and it's one of mine. It's got a good root system, very good root system in fact. Well pleased with that. It's lopsided. I'm going to have to do something about this, because although that's how they should grow, it means they take up more room. They'd be better upright, but it does mean taking them out of the pot and forcing them to be upright. That one can probably be left alone. Recently grown a new leaf, and it's a bigger leaf than, well, it's as big as the biggest leaf and bigger than the previous one, and it's got a good root system. So this one is doing fine. When I water, I do pour water on the aerial roots, but most of the time they don't hydrate. They would need a soak, but I just make sure that, you know, the roots in the pot get a good soaking basically, and the bark stays wet for a while, so it allows them to soak in more water as I go along. For those interested in this sort of thing, this is a feed run, so it's my Orchid Focus Grow, and you won't like the TDS, it's 415, so it's quite a strong mix, but effectively these plants are actively growing in the main. Many of them have new leaves, and quite a few of them, well, some of them have got spikes coming. This one, what's this one? This one is Phalaenopsis Split. So this is one of mine, but it's actually got a name. This came from Burnham's. So at the moment I'm just manually removing these with my fingers, just wiping them off and squashing them, which gets rid of the majority, and it certainly gets rid of everything I can see. There are some delicate places in between leaf joints that I can't get at, like on this one, and this one has got some down there, and some on the new leaf. So that's that dealt with. Now this one has got some reasonable roots, but the root system is recent, and literally some of the aerial roots were bent into the pot to get them to grow down into the pot. So we have some active roots in the pot, but we don't have that many for the size of the plant. It's still growing new roots. There are still new roots coming out the side. The last leaf was a reasonable size, not quite as big as the previous one, and it has another new leaf coming. So yeah, not doing bad, not doing bad. Could have a better root system though. But at least it's got one, and there are quite several actively growing roots with good root tips pushing on. So obviously these roots are going to carry on growing. And that's a lot of the reason, you know, that's part of the reason why the, sorry, this screen's not at the right angle. You can't see that bit. Now this is what I'm on about growing sideways. This plant is an absolute nuisance because it takes up the room of the pot and all of that as well. It's really flopped over sideways, this one. And this is Phalaenopsis K, so it's actually one of mine, and it's a biggie. Yeah, it's I'm going to have to do something with this one actually. In fact, I'm going to put it to one side now, not water it. I'm going to take it in the grow room, get my tray out, lift it out and push it back in the pot upright. Now that might have to sacrifice this root, I'll show you, but do I care? No, I'm going to cut it off there. Can you see the new branch coming there on the end of my fingertip? Hopefully you can. Yeah, so I can cut that root off, which means I can bend it down into the pot quite safely without damaging roots. So we'll get it down in the pot. So we'll stick that one to one side. As I say, I don't like messing about with plants if they're wet, So we'll water it after we've straightened it up. What I will probably do is when we get to the end of this video, I'll add that bit on the end so that you can just see me take it out of the pot and straighten it up. It's not really much to see, but right, so this one's losing a few of its lower leaves. It hasn't got a good root system. It's got some roots, but they're not very good. So it's probably at this stage of its life losing more leaves than it's gaining. And part of the reason might be that this one has got quite a few mealybugs and they're draining the energy out of the plant, possibly eating the life out of it. Yeah, I mean, it wobbles around in the pot. It's not sturdy. It's not, and this is mini Phalaenopsis, so it's another one that came from the Double H nursery. But it's not doing very well, this one. As I said, when it loses those two leaves, it's going to be lopsided for a start, because it looks like it's only losing one on the other side. But we have a second one with a spike. It's only tiny, on the end of my finger there. Now some would say no, it's not, it's a root. Well, no, it's not, it's a spike. Even at that tiny stage, the spikes have got a distinct tip to them that is not a root tip. And in 2 weeks' time, when it's extended an inch or more or whatever, it'll be obvious that it's a spike. But it is a spike, but it's not that happy a plant, this one. What was that? That was mini Phalaenopsis. I have to remember these, because as I find the new spikes like that, I have to update my notes. And they've all just got a letter. They've all just got a code. That's all I've done. Now, we're going to do the same with this one. This one hasn't got a very good root system at all, but it does have some growing tips. See, if I straighten that one up, which it really could do with it. That's Happy Hour, that's one of Hannah's. If I straighten that one up, I'm going to lose that root probably, because it will snap. And it hasn't got many roots in the pot. I'm not going to disturb that one. I'd like to straighten it up, but as I said, it's not got a good root system at the moment, so disturbing it would disturb the few roots it has got. But it does have some roots on the surface of the pot that do look like they're going to go down in the pot, because they've curved down. If I move the label there, you can see they're curving downwards. So those will go into the pot and then extend. And once those roots get going, then we could disturb it and straighten it up. Because these larger plants hanging over the side of the pot, they just take up too much room. Oof. Now this is a larger plant, but it's upright, or it's more upright. It'll do. It'll do. A couple of bugs. Where did that go in there? Right, this is Phalaenopsis L, which means it's one of mine, and this has got quite good roots. Yeah, it's got some pretty good active roots here. Actively growing. It's got a lot of aerial roots, but it hasn't got many leaves. And this is one of mine. This is probably quite an old one. It's probably one I've had quite a long time. So I wouldn't say it's growing brilliantly, but with the extended root system that it's now developing, plus the amount of aerial roots, perhaps it will get going a bit better. This is the latest leaf. It's decided to grow fat rather than long. They do that sometimes, don't ask me why, but I'm not sure it's going to get much bigger than that. So it's not growing as well as it should, and it hasn't got a new leaf coming at the moment. That is its latest leaf. It will probably still grow a bit, but not much. It looks like it's getting to its full size. Got good roots. The aerial roots on this one do actually hydrate, which is good. No sign of a spike or anything, not as yet. So I just thought I may have seen one coming out from behind the sheath, but it is a root. Right, and one more on this shelf. This is a tiny little miniature, which again will be Hannah's. This is H1, so this is the other mini. And this one's just not doing very well. It won't grow very well at all. The bugs aren't helping it much. And its main problem is it just hasn't got a good root system and it doesn't want to grow one. I'd love to get this one growing for Hannah because it's got variegated edges to the leaves, so it is a bit unusual. Yeah? You've got a yellow band down the edge of the leaves. But it's limp and floppy, it just doesn't want to perk up. It has got a few roots, but they're a bit feeble. So I just try and keep it going, the best I can do with it. It's probably the reason why it's not growing is it probably is one of those that needs quite a bit of heat, and it doesn't get it. I mean, apart from in the middle of a heat wave, this room out here very rarely gets above 23, 24. There's no sun hits the glass, yeah? So it's a cooler grower, and what I mean is it's growing cooler than it possibly would like, and that will hold it back. Some Phalaenopsis adapt and they're happy with a high temperature of 23, 24. But ideally, Phalaenopsis want a high daytime temperature of 28. Now, I can't do that in here without getting extra heating on, which I'm not doing. Right, so that's that shelf. I'll break off now. We'll put those back and start on the next shelf. Right, onto the top shelf now. Ouch. Oh, there's a bit of ouch going on because I had my COVID jab yesterday, so this shoulder's a bit sore. It's not bad, but it twinges when I reach, when I stretch out, which obviously I've now got to do to get all of these off the top shelf, which are a bit of a nuisance, but I'll live. Right, so this is Phalaenopsis M, so it's one of the double H ones again. Poor root system, although it does have one nice one that was an aerial root that I managed to push down without it breaking, so it's actively growing now. And there are a couple of other roots, but that's not a good root system. It's got a new leaf coming that is still growing. But it hasn't got many leaves and it hasn't got a very good root system, so we'll have to see how that one progresses. Right. We're starting at this end. Right. Now this is one of Hannah's. Doesn't have a label. This. Oh, look at the mealybugs on that. Down at the base of those leaves. Just can't get rid of them. And, you know, and I mean, on some of the plants, they're coming back in anger. You know, in multiple numbers, and some big ones as well. Just can't get rid of them at the moment. The trouble is, you see, I'm not putting any effort into it. That's what it really comes down to. If I put my mind to it and mixed up the soapy wash spray every 4th day, took them outside and give them all a good spray, top and bottom, I would get rid of them. But it's work on top of all the other stuff I've got to do. Right, so this has got lovely variegated leaves. Lovely pattern on the leaves. It is one of Hannah's, and I forget what the flowers look like, but there's no sign of any at the moment. It lost some leaves but the more recent leaves that it's grown are much bigger and stronger. So this is perking up. It does have a few roots growing, not many, but there's a nice little packet of roots down here that have come down from aerial roots. That happened because this one got taken out and straightened up a bit, and got a lot more of the aerial root tips into the pot, which are some of which are now growing. So it's coming on. But I forget what the blooms are like on this. It has bloomed since it was here. I'm going to have to start taking pictures of the Phalaenopsis blooms because I'm very lazy. I know they normally bloom, and obviously Phalaenopsis blooms last a long time, and I don't get pictures of them. I just sort of forget. Probably because they've got no proper names. It's just a letter. Oh, this is going to be a nuisance. Right, now this one has got a bloom. Right, so this is the only Phalaenopsis bloom I have at the moment. This is Mini Phal B, and this one's a bit special because it's lots of things. The first thing it's the one that had the terminal spike. You can see it there. That was a flower spike coming straight out the top of the plant. Normally that is, like the expression says, terminal spike. It normally means the plant is terminal, as well as the fact the spike comes out of the top of the plant. But this one has pushed out a little growth here and another one here. So we now have two side growths, I'm going to call them. They're not, strictly speaking, kikis. So I call them side shoots on a Phalaenopsis. That one is in fact a third little growth that's covered in mealybugs, and that's probably its doom. You suck the life out of it before it even gets going. There's none on the bloom, that's unusual. But this one's grown some roots more recently, not many. I mean, look, there's a whole section of the pot there without a root in it, whereas there are some lurking around. So it has got some roots, but it's now got two, potentially three side growths. So this is going to look like a little bush if they're all successful. But anyway, it's the only Phalaenopsis one that's actually in bloom at the moment. I hope you can sort of work out what I'm doing here, because obviously that plant is going to be in the everything in bloom video. So you notice there's a distinct pause at the end before I come over and water it. That's so that I can edit that section out, because it's got to go in another video as well as this one. Being two. Oh. Right. Now this is Phalaenopsis C, and this one has a spike starting, so we'll have some blooms on that. It's a mini phal, so it's again one that came from Double H as the package. Just to go into a bit more detail, they sell them, or they don't sell retail basically at the plant, at the nursery, but I have been there on an open day where I bought some plants. And also they have an online store which is called Love Orchids, if you're interested, and every now and again they have a surplus. They have their regular customers, which in the main are supermarkets, and they buy plants in as plug plants and bring them on, get them into bloom and everything ready to sell. And then sometimes perhaps the supermarket didn't sell as many as they thought, so they don't want to buy quite so many, and they have a surplus, and they only sell to the supermarkets what they deem perfect plants. So if the blooms have been open 3 or 4 weeks, they're no longer perfect plants. You know, they need open blooms going down to a few buds on the top of the spike, or spikes preferably too. and that's what they sell. So if they've been open a while and they haven't been ordered and sold, then they package them up and they sell them 4 at a time for 20 quid. So that's 4 mini phals in bloom for 20 quid with free postage, but only to the UK. Mainland UK, I don't think they do Northern Ireland, but don't quote me on it. And that is an excellent way to get some nice mini phals with a splash of colour. The downside is you don't get to choose to any great extent. They do 4 white ones. Now, although I say white ones, they're not all the same. You know, they'll have different coloured centres to the lips or something. Or you can have pinks and purples, which is exactly what it says on the tin. You might get 2 the same, or you have pot luck, where you might be lucky like I was and get a yellow one. But the pot luck just means they just grab 4, hopefully they'll be different, and put them in the box, and then they send them to you. So it's a good way of getting very cheap Phalaenopsis in bloom that are quality plants. The blooms have just been open a while, so they're not in the condition they like to sell them in. Anyway, this spike is advancing reasonably well, so that one's coming on. Good root system, nice root system on that one, to both sides of the pot, all round. So this one's doing extremely well. New leaf coming now, previous new leaf over here, decent size, bigger than the previous couple, and a new one coming, plus roots, plus a spike. Can't really ask for any more. That's a good one. They're not all that good. Whoops. Chuck water all over the place, why don't you? So I missed. Right, so that's that one. Another one in bloom. Did I say what it was? Phal C. Right, next we've got the silly one. Oh, this is my biggest one. It's the one that has a rock on it to stop it falling over. This was my son's, and it came to me in a glass jar. So no ventilation, no drainage, nothing. And it had been in there about 5 years, he reckoned, possibly 5 years plus, he said. And we had to smash the glass to get it out and pot it up. And having potted it up, it's done splendid. It's done incredibly well. It's got a good pot full of roots now, big, nice, chunky roots. It's a very large plant. The leaves on it are absolutely massive. It's got a new leaf coming, and it's got a reasonably well advanced spike, as you can see. It's straight because it was given to me, because my son couldn't, he was moving somewhere where he couldn't look after it. I didn't get to choose it, and I don't particularly like the blooms that much, but nonetheless the plant's doing okay. It is a bit of a giant. It hangs over the shelf quite dramatically, which is a bit of a nuisance, so it has to go right on the edge of the shelf all the time, but it's manageable. So I just a couple of adult mealy bugs lurking. Really am going to have to deal with them, aren't I? It's not a good time of year to be taking stuff outside and spraying it. Still, it can come back in, they can all come back into the grow room. What I did last time is I got my big black trays and put one of the shelves in the black trays, and then took it outside and picked each plant up in turn, gave it a good spray back in the tray, and then picked the whole tray up and brought them back into the grow room to dry off. So that's what we'll probably do again. Anyway, I don't have a, do I have a tag on this one? Yeah, I did give it a letter, Phalaenopsis N, and obviously it's one of the larger group. So doing okay. Notice what I've done with the spike. You can do this. The plant hangs over like that. If I let the spike do that, I'd have a hell of a job keeping the plant upright. So what I've done is I've turned the plant round so it faces the kitchen now. The spike is following the light. So the spike's turned round to head towards the winter. So the blooms will be above the pot instead of hanging over the edge. Little trick. The spikes will follow the light. As long as you point the spike at the light. Otherwise it won't work, obviously. So that's my biggest one. By far. A bit of a monster, really. And the rock goes on there to counterbalance the plant. That's what that's for. Right, next. Ow! Right, this is another biggie. It has a name, so it's one of Hannah's. And it is Phalaenopsis U-Pin Easter Island. And I've bloomed this several times since I've had it. I'm just checking because it's around this time of year that it normally blooms. No sign of a spike. Never mind. This has grown some additional roots, and some of the existing roots are starting to branch, but it's not a good root system given the size of the plant, which is large. Not quite as large as the previous one, but quite large. So it's doing okay, and it's done a lot better since it was repotted, and some of the older roots are branching, so we're getting there. Yeah, could be doing better, but it's growing nice sized leaves. It's not dropping the old ones off the bottom. I mean, this one's now got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 leaves, so you know it's doing okay. It's probably got the most leaves of any plant, any fowl that I've got. 9, and they're all good leaves. You know, the bottom one is a little bit tatty through physical damage, but it's not going yellow or anything or wrinkled. So that's that one. Although it is Hannah's, as I said, not mine. Ow. Right, what have we got now then? What we've got now is Mini Fowl H, so it's another double H one. Just finishing off a new leaf. It's got next to no roots in the pot. Literally, there aren't many roots at all. But what it has got is a nice spike pushing on. Now, somewhere in amongst these mini fowls are duplicates, especially I think there was 3 purple ones. Well, once I find out which ones are which, those will probably go into the Orchid Society to be got rid of. Simply because this shelf is just too full. They're all squashed up. They could do with a bit more space around them. But anyway, I mean, we've got a spike on this one, so we can look forward to some blooms at some point. Now this one was hanging over really badly, and what I did was I stuck a stake in it down between the leaves so as not to damage them too much, to hold it more upright. The idea being that as it grew new roots it would stabilise, and as a consequence these 2 roots here, well, this one you can see, this one you can't, so it's under that leaf, are now pushing down into the pot. So it's getting better, but it's not a healthy plant as far as the roots are concerned. There's hardly any. But it's grown 2 new leaves recently, and they're both a reasonable size, and now we have a spike. Which is of course good. It is the time of year when a lot of Phalaenopsis do start to spike. It's mainly to do with the drop in the temperatures that you get as you go into autumn. But obviously if you're growing in the house, that might not be happening. So sometimes you have to be a bit brave and put them in a cool room. It is pretty well known. You do get summer blooming fowls, and they're not affected by this at all. But a lot of them produce their spikes. They're not autumn blooming, because the blooms, you know, the spikes take quite a long time to grow. The blooms might not be there until even after Christmas. They can take that long. But they're classed as autumn bloomers because that's when the spikes are initiated, and they tend to be initiated from the drop in temperatures. And if they're in a place in your house where that doesn't happen, then try and find somewhere where it can happen. They only need 3 or 4 weeks apparently. I mean, I don't have to worry because the temperature out here drops down naturally, says throwing the plant on the floor. But yeah, if you want to initiate some spikes, try and cool them down. That nursery that I'm on about, Double H, they grow theirs at 28 degrees. They don't drop it down that much at night, and they keep 14 hours of proper daylight through artificial lighting when the normal daylight's not bright enough. So they're grown in ideal conditions. But then once they get to the size where they need to get the spikes going to be able to sell them, they move to a totally different greenhouse where they don't get those temperatures. They drop the daytime right down and the night time. So, you know, and then they initiate their spikes, push them on. They probably adjust the type of feed they use, get the blooms going. Anyway, this one's got a pot full of roots. This is Phalaenopsis O, so it's one of mine, and it's a large one, so it's one I probably had quite a long time. I don't know that. A lot of these I haven't got the when I got them, but this has even grown roots out of the holes in the pot, so it's got a really, really good root system. It'll be a hell of a job to get out of that pot if ever I need to. But none of these have been in their pots too long. There are no urgent repots in the Phalaenopsis group. Yeah, this one hasn't got a spike yet, but maybe soon, who knows. As I said, these cooler temperatures are, you know, are a reasonably recent thing. But this one's doing okay. It's got a new leaf, it's got plenty of roots, including some aerial ones. It's doing fine. Wish they all were as well rooted as that one, but they're not. And the new leaf is coming on, yeah. Previous leaf was a bit strange. I'll tell you why. You see it's kinked there. It's where I put a stake either side of the plant to straighten it up as that leaf was developing, so it pinched the edges, obviously. So physical damage, not anything other than that. Oh, and then the last one, which I'm taking down with my right hand because I'm getting fed up with saying ouch. And this is a mini Phal G. And we do have a spike. So yet another one with a spike. It's only a small one. Yeah, but just here. So we have another one with a spike. Now this is a plant that is a little limp. Now that is normally because it's not hydrating as well as it should do. Well, that will be reasonably obvious why that's happening when you look at the roots, because that's the only reasonable bit of root in the pot. But there is one running on that will go round the bottom of the pot. That's actively growing. So is that one. And so is this one round here. So it is growing a better root system, which will help it. So I won't say it's doing well, but it's doing better than it has been, and it is growing a better root system, and it's going to have a go at blooming. So yeah, there we go. And that's the last plant out here. So what we'll do now is we'll move on out into the grow room and have a look at the rest of the bud spikes and blooms. Now that was for the other video. To finish this video off, I just need, there's a couple of mealybugs down in crevices there that I can't possibly get my finger into. Yes, so I would say generally my Phalaenopsis aren't doing bad because they don't get any care at all. They get no care at all. They get watered when I get round to it, often 2 or 3 days later than they should be, which means they've gone virtually totally dry, which as long as it's not for extended periods, it doesn't really matter that much. But it can inhibit root growth. If they've got a moist atmosphere at the root ball, root base, it keeps those growing tips going. If the pot totally dries out, some of the roots will push on, trying to hunt down some moisture, and others will stop. So it's better that they don't go totally dry. Should be some dampness around. When they're actively growing, I mean, if you've got a stationary plant, no new leaves, all the existing leaves have reached the biggest size they're going to get to, and you've got very few, if any, actively growing roots, then the plant's not doing anything. So it doesn't need that constant moisture. And I say damp because not wet. These roots do not like to stay permanently wet. Yeah. Right, so that's a look at the Phalaenopsis. I'm now going to go into the grow room, so I'll break off and we'll go out and we'll have a go at straightening up that big plant, see if we can get it more upright in the pot, and hopefully that'll encourage it to grow better. So I'll be back. Right, let's see what we can do with this wonky Phalaenopsis then. First job out of the pot, obviously. That should just come out quite easily. Right, now let's have a look. My idea is to hold it upright. Oh, I'll be back. The base of that plant's covered in mealybugs and I left my alcohol out in the kitchen. I'll be back. Of course, this might be what some of the problem actually is the fact that they get down below the ground line. So they're on the surface of the pot, but below a couple of pieces of bark. So they're around the sort of like the trunk of the plant, so I don't see them. And that might mean that they miss out on the spray as well. Now I'm just having a look. Obviously I don't need to change the media. There's nothing wrong with the media. These haven't been in their pots long. But I'm just searching through because obviously I put some of this large, really hard, chunky stuff in the base. And that can just go straight back in. Some of it's stuck to the roots, so, but it's the lower roots that it's stuck to, so it'll go back in anyway, one way or the other. That's most of it. Yeah, that'll do. Right, so the plan is just to straighten the plant up and put the bark back in. Just twist it slightly to make sure the roots tuck in okay. In actual fact, there's a huge chunk of dead roots there. We just as well get them off while we're doing this. No point in leaving them. So you cut off a dead root like that, look, and then you come down the root and find that it's actually branched and has got a lovely growing tip on it. And just cut it off. So we'll make sure any more that we cut off haven't done that. I think. It was another real papery one there. And another one there. That'll do. Right, we've got our crocking in there. That's just to make sure the air cone doesn't get blocked up. And then we'll just twist these roots to make sure they go down in the pot and don't snap with any luck. Got a leaf decided it wants to be planted in the pot as well. We don't want any of that nonsense. I have an aerial root that I'm going to bend into the pot. That was successful. That didn't. There's a lovely click you get when the Phalaenopsis root breaks, and it's most annoying, but it happens. So we've straightened the plant up. Now all we've got to do, because the bark is dry, you can just tap it down into all those gaps. And we might have to get some top-up bark because there are more gaps now. Why? Well, because we cut some of the roots off. They won't be in there taking up space now, so we might have to grab a handful from the bag and just top it off. Now with Phalaenopsis, if you've got a few gaps, don't worry. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because I often find with Phalaenopsis the new roots will head for the gaps and fill them up with roots rather than with media. So I've got a really large gap down this side of the pot. Just getting that topped up. There we go. Now, make sure this plant is going to stay upright. We will have to press down this side slightly. Well, that looks a bit better straight away, doesn't it? Got a few gaps over here. It's basically where it's straightened up, the aerial roots are now on the surface of the media instead of being in the air because the plant's moved. So we can get some media in the gaps of those aerial roots, and yeah, see, I've just found a huge mealybug on that piece of bark. They are a nuisance, to say the least. And I'm being incredibly polite because I know the camera's running. That's not what I normally call them, can I assure you. There's all sorts of names they've got, many of which shouldn't be on YouTube. Right, that'll do. And we give that a good watering now, settle that in, and hopefully any future root growth will help stabilise the pot. But it's nice and upright now, it's not hanging over like it was, and we've lost most of our aerial roots. They're now down in the pot, which is good, because that means hopefully they will grow on. I often find that aerial roots that you decide to bury in the pot don't do that well, but they often branch higher up from where the growing tip was and start growing again from higher up, which means they do get down in the pot, obviously. There's another aerial root there. I'm just going to try and, can I get it to go down? Yep. And then we'll bury it. Right, there we go, that'll do. Much better off now, and my water came out with me, so we give it a good watering. That's good. And then back in its pot. That leaf always wants to go inside the flat pot. And then back out on the kitchen windowsill. So some dead roots off. Put our label back in. And I must start, as we've now got spikes coming, I must start getting pictures to go with the notes. Yeah, so that, I mean, I've sort of got a description in the notes, like, you know, purple with a deeper purple lip, something like that, and small. You know, I do keep a description of them, but it's not the same as having a picture which I can then use as a pop-up when I'm talking about them. And those I haven't taken, so we will do. Right, so as I said, it's a slightly unconventional video on the grounds that I was filming two at the same time. So now what I've got to do is film the rest of everything in bloom, because we've only done the little bit in the kitchen. And that's for today's video, so I shall have to crack on with that. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. And if you've got Phalaenopsis, as I said, there's quite a few of them that should be thinking about coming into spike now. So I hope you do well with them. And I never seem to get those really big spikes with loads and loads of blooms. I don't know why, but I just don't get those really big spikes. Mine tend to just have a few blooms and are not too long. But as I said, they don't get much care. They just get watered when I get round to it and fed most times. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.